This episode began with a rather fat man walking in an alley. He accidentally heard a girl's voice asking for help. The man wanted to help her. The bullies consisted of several men who finally noticed this anim's MC's presence. The girl could only silently stare at the figure of the man who saved her. Even though the fat man had courage, he only became a punching bag for the bullies in the end. He was beaten to a pulp, lying on the street and helpless. Luckily, the police came soon and made the bullies run away. The girl then tried to come to him and wanted to help him, but he felt he did not need the help of the girl or the police. He then stood up and just walked away. The girl could only stare at the back of the man who had saved her without saying thank you. This fat man, also the MC of this anime, was called Yuuya Tenju. He walked while remembering the words of his grandfather. From a young age, Yuuya was constantly bullied. Not only at school, but even his parents also hated him. His two younger siblings didn't even think of him as a human, just because they looked better than Yuuya. His mother was even furious when Yuuya's clothes were mixed with theirs. Yuuya lived in his own house but felt like a stranger. In this world, the only one dear to him was his grandfather. His grandfather taught Yuuya always to be kind to people in need, even though sometimes it took more courage. Arriving home, Yuuya found the door of his house that had been scribbled with harsh words and insults. He knew that his ugly appearance had annoyed the people around him. When Yuuya was lying down and lamenting his fate, he remembered his grandfather's advice not to give up no matter what. His grandfather taught him that happiness would come by itself if we continued to help and assist others. However, after his grandfather died, Yuuya could only cry over his grandfather's passing. His parents also wanted to take the inherited house that his grandfather would give to Yuuya. Fortunately, his grandfather, who seemed to know all this already, had arranged everything in detail. This made Yuuya's parents leave and left Yuuya alone. In order to make a living, he had to work part-time every day. The scene then changed. Yuuya's school was holding a graduation ceremony. But instead of being happy, Yuuya got insulted and cursed, making Yuuya have to leave there. Not only that, Yuuya was also bullied by thugs at school. His two siblings also seemed happy to see him being bullied by everyone. Because of the incident earlier, Yuuya was late for his part-time job, which got him fired. Every night it turned out that Yuuya could only eat a cup of cup ramen. Because he couldn't hold back his feelings, Yuuya cried. He even vented all his anger on the mirror in the bathroom that was in front of him. It made his hands bleed. Yuuya, who punched the wall next to the mirror, found a hidden room instead. He was surprised to see a room full of strange objects. He guessed they all belonged to his grandfather, who often traveled around the world and collected antiques. Then Yuuya found an extraordinary door and decided to enter it. But he was surprised to see a status window like the one in a game. There was shown the skills and titles he had obtained. He was curious. He then read the explanation contained in his skill. It turned out that the door was the link between the Earth and the Isekai world. Finally, it was known that Yuuya had money conversion skills. After he made sure and read the explanation of his skills many times, he entered and was convinced that he was in an Isekai. In a room, Yuuya found a piece of paper on the table. Even though Yuuya couldn't read it at first, because of his translation skills, he could read the letter's contents. The letter turned out to be a letter of inheritance to anyone who managed to find that place, and then the person would get all the belongings he had. In other words, Yuuya was the one who managed to own all the assets there. Also known that no one could enter the place without the owner's permission. Yuuya also took a sword that was said to be the king of all swords with a sharp edge. Yuuya then ventured out of the house. He was surprised to see the area around his house. The house had a large yard and guardrails in every corner. Yuuya was excited and tried to use the sword. By swinging his sword carelessly, Yuuya got a sword skill. After understanding how to gain skills, Yuuya tried other weapons. Satisfied with all the weapons, Yuuya had also acquired all martial skills and had reached the pinnacle of all types of combat arts. When he put all his weapons into his item box, something suddenly tried to break through his property. Yuuya was scared because the monster was a level 300 bloody ogre. After a long time, he worked up the courage to throw his spear. Yuuya managed to kill that bloody ogre with that high level with one throw. Yuuya was shocked but tried approaching the bloody ogre's body because the monster's body had turned into a reddish-white light. Yuuya's skill level also rose from 1 point to 100 points. Yuuya then took some of the monster's items, from raw materials to several pieces of equipment with overpowered names and statuses. After all that was done, Yuuya felt tired and intended to return. But before returning, the skill window was active and asked for approval. After being approved, 15 million yen suddenly came out. After that, his body felt extreme pain. When Yuuya woke up the next morning, his body, which used to be fat, turned muscular. Yuuya was very surprised by the change in himself overnight. Yuuya wanted to look in the mirror, but he couldn't because the mirror broke. Because none of his clothes fit, Yuuya wore clothes from the previous owner. Yuuya then walked out of the house and found many overpowering plants growing around his yard. It turned out that it was a healing plant, where even if a limb had been cut off, it would heal if someone consumed the plant. Not only herbs, but there were also tomato plants that could increase attack power and absolute ones that could level up defense skills. There were also wisdom plants that usually increased intelligence and potato plants that could increase agility. Because he was used to the conditions and monsters there, Yuuya could easily kill a high-level monster. The monster then dropped a necklace, which was a rare item called the Star Moon Necklace. After using the necklace, Yuuya gained the ability to detect instantly. After that, Yuuya decided to buy a new school uniform. Thanks to the ice sky, Yuuya's fear of school was much less. When Yuuya patrolled the edge of the fence, he seemed very used to dealing with monsters. Even Yuuya didn't seem afraid of the high-level goblins attacking him. But Yuuya realized that he could no longer level up. The next day at school, everyone was looking at Yuuya. They were curious about this handsome man and could only stare at him from a distance. Arriving at class, he was approached by thugs who always bullied him. Everyone thought that the handsome student was a transfer student. Yuuya had explained the truth, and everyone was surprised not to believe Yuuya's words. Yuuya was confused and immediately went to the toilet to look in the mirror. He was surprised to see the change in him. The scene changed to a girl looking for Yuuya. After meeting Yuuya, the girl questioned Yuuya's condition, which was much thinner than before. Yuuya felt that he didn't know that girl. Hearing that, the girl laughed. She explained that she was the girl Yuuya once saved from thugs in the alley. Yuuya was surprised because he just remembered that. Yuuya asked how the girl knew his name. Before answering Yuuya's question, the girl apologized because it turned out she had investigated Yuuya's whereabouts to thank him. To repay her gratitude, the girl invited Yuuya to attend Alsea Academy. Yuuya, who heard that, was surprised because the academy was a very elite school. The girl then introduced herself as Kaori Huju. Kaori was the student council and daughter of the headmaster of Alsea Academy. The butcher informed that Kaori's father intended to invite him into his academy after hearing that his daughter was saved by Yuuya the other day. Yuuya felt he didn't deserve to enter the academy because his achievements were lacking. With no shame, Yuuya's two siblings even offered to replace Yuuya. Kaori was displeased and immediately rejected them. It silenced them. It turned out that Kaori had also investigated their daily behavior, which often bullied Yuuya. Kaori explained to Yuuya that Alsea Academy prioritized character excellence over academics. After a long chat, Kaori's butcher asked Kaori to take Yuuya to the academy immediately. Yuuya's two siblings, instead of regretting what they had done, even felt revenge towards him. Upon arriving at the academy, the atmosphere was much different, so peaceful and serene. There all students were active in healthy competition. In the principal's room, Yuuya was already facing off against the chairman of the Alsea Academy Council, Tsukasa Huju. Tsukasa lowered his head to Yuuya for saving his daughter. Tsukasa didn't immediately want Yuuya to enter his academy, but he asked Yuuya's opinion first. He also said that Yuuya didn't need to think about paying tuition fees and so on. That was all he gave in exchange for saving Kaori. Yuuya said that he didn't deserve to go to a genius place. Tsukasa then asked Yuuya the meaning of genius. Yuuya replied that a genius was someone who could do everything. But Tsukasa answered that being a genius was someone proficient in a field. He could finish everything in no time, making him not too different from ordinary people. After a long chat, Yuuya was taken aback by Tsukasa's words, which made him remember his grandfather, who often gave him motivation and advice. Yuuya had to try many things and try to have a little fun. Tsukasa also advised Yuuya to face himself slowly. Tsukasa then suggested that Yuuya take a trial at the academy for one day. Soon there was a knock on the door, and a beautiful woman, a teacher at the academy named Sawada, entered. Tsukasa told Yuuya that he would take part in learning in Ms. Sawada's class. Ms. Sawada was a brilliant person in science as well as the most popular teacher among the students. Even though he looked nervous, thanks to Tsukasa's words, Yuuya finally agreed to participate in the trial and entered Ms. Sawada's class. After introducing himself, Yuuya thought that everyone there didn't like him because the students had no reaction. So nervous, Yuuya felt as if he wanted to cry. But Yuuya's estimate was wrong because all the students there felt that Yuuya was very handsome. Ms. Sawada asked Yuuya to sit down. Because the first lesson required opening a textbook, Ms. Sawada asked a girl named Akira Hudu to share books with Yuuya. Yuuya had never lived a life like that. It made Yuuya happy.
天井は隣の兵道に見せてもらったの。
よろしくね。
During recess, his classmates made him nervous. But not long after that, a student came and calmed all his friends for fear of disturbing Yuuya's comfort. That student was named Ryu Igarashi. Ryu then asked Yuuya to go to the cafeteria together.
昼飯もまだだろうし、とりあえず食堂で飯食うんだけど一緒に行かないか？ありがとう。
When they arrived at the cafeteria, Yuuya was surprised to see the food price there, which was 500 yen and even cheaper.
すごい。これが
After ordering lunch, another student named Shingo Kurata called them and asked them to sit together.
こっち空いてるよ。2人分。面白かったでしょ？僕も同じクラスの倉田慎吾。
Yuuya was surprised because they were both so good with him. Yuuya thought all the students' stares at him were because of his different uniform, but it turned out to be because of Yuuya's very handsome face.
そうなんだ。意外。苦じゃなくて顔だろ。
After a day's trial, Yuuya was delighted with the treatment of all the students there, who treated him like the others equally. Tsukasa then asked Yuuya what he thought about the school, but because he was still unsure, Tsukasa had to convince Yuuya that he deserved to attend school there.
価値がある。私はそう。この学園に通って2年。
よろしくお願いします。すごかったです。授業もわかりやすいし。北条さん。
After finishing, it turned out that Kaori was already waiting for Yuuya outside. She was relieved because Yuuya told her he had decided to go to school there. After that, Yuuya took Kaori for a walk.
この辺りのお店に皆さん
It turned out that Kaori rarely spent time relaxing with her friends. Many students were shy about her because of her status there, and also the daughter of the headmaster of the academy. Yuuya then changed the subject and asked Kaori to eat crepes together.
とは一緒に来てみたかったんです。
友達と遊びに来たりするんですか？北条さん。あそこ。
While they were eating, several people glanced at the two of them. Kaori felt very happy to be able to eat crepes together with Yuuya. However, Yuuya excitedly wanted to taste all the crepes on the menu. But Yuuya was afraid that he would get fat again.
おいしい。ここおいしいって評判なので。
元の体型に戻っちゃうかも。
Yuuya asked Kaori how she could recognize him right away, because Yuuya's appearance had changed a lot since the last time he met Kaori. Kaori said she recognized Yuuya quickly because she saw the look in Yuuya's eyes. Kaori felt that Yuuya's gaze was very sincere and peaceful for her.
ユウヤさん、すごくお痩せになられましたけど。
わかったんですか？
いただきます。
Kaori also protested Yuuya because Yuuya kept calling her by her family name, Huju. Kaori wanted Yuuya to call her by her first name. Despite being embarrassed, Kaori worked up the courage to do so.
もし嫌でなかったら。
Kaori.
Kaori then offered her crepes so Yuuya could taste hers. In order to break even, Yuuya also then fed Kaori his crepes. Everyone staring at them earlier was happy to see Yuuya and Kaori's romantic gestures.
恨みっこなしで。
すみません。香りって呼んでいただけ。
Returning from the academy, Yuuya was immediately greeted by a monster he had faced before. This made Yuuya sure to get out of his safety zone. He intended to look for stronger monsters in the forest.
ゆっくりになったもんだな。やった。
Suddenly, Yuuya heard the screams of many people. Yuuya prepared his spear and rushed toward the direction of the sound. Yuuya saw many corpses there, and a level 200 goblin was about to attack a girl. Unable to see the girl get hurt, Yuuya intended to finish off the monster. Yuuya was still confused because there were many humans in Isekai. The girl tried to warn Yuuya because he was still inexperienced. It made Yuuya a little overwhelmed. But on the other hand, Yuuya felt he still had strengths to rely on. Yuuya again advanced against the monster and managed to win the fierce battle. Yuuya then approached the girl. It seemed that the girl was a princess, but because she was too weak, the girl fainted. Apparently, there were lots of people who were looking for the girl's whereabouts. The girl then woke up and introduced herself as Princess Lexia von Alceria. Hearing many people approaching, Yuuya used his skill to hide his presence like a chameleon.
レクシア様
In the end, Princess Lexia was rescued by rescue troops. This episode began with the scene of Yuuya saving the royal troops from monster attacks. He even saved a royal princess named Lexia von Alceria. The scene then moved to Yuuya, who had returned home, ironing his clothes. For a moment, he thought about whether Lexia was okay, but when he remembered that many people were already helping her, Yuuya became calmer and relieved. Because Yuuya's body was much smaller than before, he'd only had a few clothes. Even Yuuya's remaining clothes had the same style, white shirts. Because Yuuya still had some money, he went to the mall to buy new clothes. But at the mall, Yuuya became the center of attention of people, especially girls. Yuuya even felt awkward because everyone was watching him. Then the scene moved to a man dressed eccentrically, Hikaru, who was scolding a manager. Hikaru turned out to be a photographer. Hikaru was angry because he wanted to do a photo shoot, but the male model arrived late because he was still very drunk. Hikaru was a photographer who liked the discipline. The shoot's theme then was thrilling shopping with a cool boyfriend, which required a male model. Meanwhile, the female model was ready from the morning in the waiting room. The beautiful model was called Miyu. Because he was fed up, Hikaru finally decided to find a male model at the mall. He rushed to ask his staff to look for the person in the mall. Then it was shown Yuuya, who was confused about choosing clothes. He was then approached by two women who offered to help, but Yuuya didn't want their help and thought of a way to reject them subtly. But the two women stood still and were amazed to see Yuuya's model-like appearance, who was very handsome and charming. He then left and tried to look elsewhere. Meanwhile, Hikaru was annoyed with his staff because they couldn't find men who fit his criteria. Until finally, they decided to go back to search upstairs. When Hikaru was going up using the escalator, he accidentally saw Yuuya, who was coming down. With one glance, Hikaru decided that Yuuya was the right person for this photo shoot. As a result, Hikaru immediately pursued Yuuya and asked him to become a model. Because Yuuya felt bad, Yuuya finally agreed to Hikaru's invitation. The shooting session began immediately. Initially, Yuuya felt nervous because it was his first experience being a model. But with help from Hikaru and his experienced model partner, Miyu, Yuuya could finally put himself in a good position. The shooting session went well. Yuuya looked a little used to it, although his facial expression was still stiff. Yuuya still tried to follow Hikaru's directions. Miyu and Yuuya were also seen chatting during the photo shoot, but Yuuya still looked stiff. Yuuya tried even harder because he really admired Miyu's performance in fashion. Even though he was in an intimate pose, Yuuya seemed a little evasive, but with the right angle, Hikaru could take the perfect photo. As a result, the shooting session was completed according to schedule. Despite the suddenness, Hikaru and his staff praised Yuuya's ability to become a model. Meanwhile, in Isekai, Princess Lexia was thinking about the person who saved her life. She then decided to look for that person and headed back to the demon's lair. This, of course, made the royal troops worry. Moreover, they were still mourning their previous defeat. Because Princess Lexia's decision could not be contested, they were forced to accompany her back to the demon's lair. At the mall, Yuuya and the others were seen resting because they had finished their photo shoot. Miyu complimented Yuuya that even though he didn't have modeling experience, he could finish everything perfectly. Yuuya also praised Miyu for being well-trained and able to follow Hikaru's directions well, even though they were close in age. Even Yuuya choked while drinking because he was distracted by the friendly and caring Miyu. Miyu gave her a handkerchief to wipe the water on Yuuya's face. Miyu even allowed Yuuya to wipe his sweat with that handkerchief. Yuuya's face turned red. The beauty and good looks of the two of them even caught people's attention in the mall. Then the male model who was supposed to do a photo shoot with Miyu came not long after. However, his arrival caused trouble and made Miyu feel uncomfortable. The model was indeed very handsome. Even a greeting from him could electrify the entire mall. His name was Sho. Besides being a famous model, he was also an expert in boxing. He told Miyu to finish the stupid job soon. Hearing that, Hikaru, of course, became very upset. Seeing that Miyu was depressed, Yuuya tried to stop Xiao's behavior. But arrogantly, Shu tried to hit Yuuya. Shu even stepped on Miyu's handkerchief, and that annoyed Yuuya. However, Yuuya, who had a powerful and responsive body, could easily avoid Xiao's punches and slammed him hard with just one strike. This took the whole mall by surprise. Hikaru and Miu were shocked to see what had just happened. Yuuya, who realized his actions were wrong, was afraid he would get a judgment from all of Xiao's fans. Yuuya wanted to apologize, but all his predictions were wrong. His actions instead got praise and attention from everyone. The whole mall screamed with joy to see Yuuya's victory. They even liked Yuuya even more because Yuuya looked so cool. Because it had caused a commotion, Hikaru finally intervened by saying they had recorded this incident. When Shu got up, he became big-headed and arrogant, but Hikaru approached him and told him not to underestimate the job. Having already lost, Shu finally ran from there in great shame. Miu felt relieved because she had felt uncomfortable with Xiao's treatment of her all this time. Recently, Shu approached her roughly. Hikaru said that he would report all these incidents to the president-director. Hikaru then offered the modeling job to Yuuya, but because Yuuya felt he was inexperienced, Yuuya refused the offer politely. Not wanting to push him, Hikaru finally agreed with Yuuya's answer. Although in his heart, Hikaru wanted to make Yuuya his model. As his thanks to Yuuya, Hikaru gave him some fancy clothes. Yuuya returned home carrying lots of new branded clothes. But Yuuya felt terrible that he had gotten it all. On the way back, Hikaru teased Miu, who always blushed when they talked about Yuuya. Yuuya returned to Ice Sky to do his monster hunting routine, but a battle was going on between the royal troops and the monsters. The royal troops seemed to be overwhelmed and almost defeated. Yuuya appeared on time and immediately slaughtered the monsters that were there. Yuuya tried to help the injured troops and gave them some efficacious herbal concoctions he made. Yuuya was surprised by the arrival of Princess Lexia, who immediately asked him to marry her. Suddenly, Yuuya and the royal troops who were there were shocked. This is the end of Isekai to Cheat Skill Episode 3. This episode opened with the scene of Princess Lexia, who suddenly asked Yuuya to marry her. Of course, the decision was protested by Princess Lexia's troops, who were there. And all that was done, of course, for apparent reasons. They did not know Yuuya's true identity and where he came from. But Princess Lexia was still chuckling with her stance to ask Yuuya to marry her. When they were arguing, Yuuya tried to mediate and invited them all to his house. Yuuya was worried that they would be attacked again by the monsters. Then, at Yuuya's house in Isekai, he served a drink to Princess Lexia and Owen, the captain of the Kingdom of Arcelia. At that time, Owen officially introduced himself and Princess Lexia. It turned out that Lexia was the first daughter of the Kingdom of Arcelia. Hearing that, of course, Yuuya became shocked. Lexia once again thanked Yuuya for saving her the other day. Lexia was the second person in the succession of the Kingdom of Arcelia. Yuuya then apologized for his impudence for acting and speaking disrespectfully to the important people of the kingdom. But because Yuuya had saved them all before, the impartiality was still understandable. When Yuuya introduced himself, Owen and Princess Lexia felt that the name was foreign to their ears. That name was rare to be heard around the kingdom. Yuuya became confused to see Owen and Princess Lexia, who immediately turned around. Princess Lexia spoke to Owen if Yuuya might be a noble family from another kingdom. At the same time, Owen felt that Yuuya was a wise person and liked to travel the world to research. Seeing the two of them confused, Yuuya tried to stop all the wrong assumptions about him. Owen said if they were indeed looking for Yuuya, because Princess Lexia forced them to look for him. Before she was completely conscious, Princess Lexia realized someone had saved her from the danger. Princess Lexia was pleased to meet again with Yuuya, but Yuuya felt that it was too fast if they had to get married. Princess Lexia also realized that their meeting was too short to be ended in marriage. Princess Lexia then invited Yuuya to make friends first. Hearing Princess Lexia invited him to be friends, Yuuya immediately accepted her and handed her his hands. Because Princess Lexia's desire was fulfilled, Owen also expressed their other intention. Owen said His Majesty wanted to invite Yuuya to the Kingdom of Arcelia. Yuuya himself felt that it was all too fast. Owen understood Yuuya's decision and said that Yuuya could come whenever he was ready to go to the kingdom. After that, they all left Yuuya's house. Princess Lexia said she was looking forward to the day they would meet again. Then a scene was shown where someone was furious because all his troops failed to kill Princess Lexia. The failure occurred because all troops were lost in the forest and died slaughtered by the crowd of monsters there. He asked the reason why Princess Lexia was still alive. But that person he asked did not know why Princess Lexia could still live after leaving there. After finishing, the person left and called his boss earlier, Your Majesty. That meant this Your Majesty had the same position or even higher than Princess Lexia. but that person seemed to have a massive grudge against Princess Lexia. The scene moved back to Yuuya's house on Earth, where he was observing the calendar and planning to meet the king of the kingdom of Arcelia. Yuuya then planned to leave on May 5. Yuuya was preparing to go to his new school. Just now, Yuuya set foot outside the house, and he had become the center of attention of people around. Upon arrival at school, Yuuya immediately went to the principal's office. But because the principal was busy, he only asked Yuuya to enjoy all the activities in his new school. After that, Sawada-sensei again introduced Yuuya to all his classmates in Class 1B. The scene moved when all students were exercising. Ryu looked very skilled in exercising. Yuuya was also amazed by Ryu's greatness. Yuuya was then approached by a student named Cade Kazama. They then met briefly, and Cade asked Yuuya to call her by her first name. In the field, Ryu was seen being confronted by 7 people at once, but Ryu was not afraid, and he managed to trick all of them by feeding his ball back. A blonde-haired student successfully took the operand. Instead of kicking straight with his unique skills, he instead kicked the ball to the left and would hit Cade. Then a surprising thing happened because Yuuya managed to dispel the ball by kicking it and immediately entered the opponent's goal. That made everyone in the field surprised. Yuuya then asked Cade if she was okay. Yuuya was relieved because Cade wasn't hurt. Soon the blonde-haired students came and prostrated, apologizing to Cade. While the others told Yuuya that the student was not evil, he was just a strange and unique child. He was actually very kind. The scene moved to the front of the women's dressing room, where Kaori accidentally heard the conversation of other students who admired Yuuya's action on the field earlier. They all seemed to feel in love with Yuuya. They even considered Yuuya as their dream prince. Kaori then entered the room to hear their chat more clearly. Cade then immediately told everything that had happened just now to Kaori. Then the other girls said if Yuuya might already have a girlfriend. Moreover, Yuuya was very handsome, cool, and athletic. Hearing that, of course, made Kaori's heart nervous. Long story short, when Kaori's class was exercising in the field, Kaori waved her hand at Yuuya, who was in class, because there was a lesson. But not long after that came a delinquent gang called Red Ogre. Kaori boldly stopped them and asked the purpose of their arrival at the school. They were told by 2 evil Yuuya siblings, Yuta and Sora, because they did not accept the previous Kaori treatment. Kaori then threatened them with police forces who were on their way there, but the threat was entirely ignored by the 2 rancid siblings. For them, the police had not arrived there, meaning they still had time to kidnap Kaori. The person named Araki, the gang leader, asked his men to catch Kaori immediately. Amid the panic, Yuuya wanted to help, but his feet could not be moved. Yuuya became upset because his body had turned strong, but his heart was still weak. Even though he had slaughtered a lot of monsters in Ice Sky, his fear made his feet unable to move. Seeing Yuuya, who was silent and pale, made his friends worry. They offered to bring Yuuya to the medical room. After being trapped by his fear, Yuuya woke up by continuing to slap himself. Yuuya tried to go to the field, but Yuuya went towards the window. Ryu, confused, tried to tell Yuuya the right direction to the classroom door. But Yuuya instead made everyone there surprised. Yuuya plunged from the 4th floor of his class and landed perfectly on the field. That made his friends surprised because Yuuya looked fine. Yuuya then immediately ran fast at his former bully. The gangs were already prepared with their batons. They then attacked Yuuya together. However, Yuuya deftly managed to disarm all the weapons of Araki's men. In the middle, Yuuya, who was still busy avoiding the other gangs, Araki, the leader, wanted to attack and prepared his batons. But Yuuya could avoid it. When he wanted to save Kaori, a big man confronted him. That person felt pretentious because his body was much bigger than Yuuya's. When the big man attacked Yuuya in a sumo style, Yuuya held his head with one hand and slammed his body. Seeing that, the other members of the gang became scared. On the other hand, Yuuya even wasted time asking about Kaori's condition without saving her first. In the end, they all intended to attack Yuuya with their motorcycles. However, Yuuya could still avoid all the attacks easily. Araki even crashed and fell because he lost control of his motorcycle. Soon the police came and immediately tied them all and took them to the police station. Yuuya went to Kaori and checked her condition. Although trying to be strong, Kaori soon fell. Fortunately, Yuuya could catch her body immediately. Because of the state of all the confusing students, the teachers then tried to arrange them to be orderly. It was seen that Yuta and Sora got arrested too. Yuta was even upset because Red Ogre was incompetent in carrying out his duties. Of course, it made Araki upset. Araki raised him and tried to strangle his neck. At the same time, Sora tried to stop Araki, but Araki kicked her and made her fall to the ground. Amid his pain, Yuta hoped that someone would help him. Yuuya came and stopped Araki and released his hand easily from his brother's neck. Yuuya then asked about Yuta's condition, and he was surprised because his brother wanted to help him. Araki did not accept and intended to attack Yuuya, but Yuuya only looked back and intimidated Araki with his sharp gaze. Araki suddenly felt scared and stopped. Yuta and Sora asked Yuuya's reason for helping them, even though they constantly bullied Yuuya for his life. Yuuya answered that even though so far, Yuuya always experienced great difficulty and could not forgive them both, but Yuuya still could not abandon his family. They were silent and cried uncontrollably. They immediately prostrated and apologized to Yuuya. This is the end of Isekai to Cheat Skill, Episode 4. This episode opened with a scene where Yuuya was ready to open the door in front of him. Before opening the door, he remembered the words of someone he had met. The person said he didn't know this place. Great Devil's Nest was the most dangerous zone of the series of hazardous regions that the various countries must be wary of. The monsters he defeated were monsters that had the ability to destroy a large city if they appeared in groups. The Great Devil's Nest was the home of the most terrifying monsters. Yuuya wondered why Mr. Mahardika, the original owner of that place, wanted to live there. Yuuya, who was walking alone in the forest, was startled by the sound of animal groans. It turned out to be the sound of a dog being attacked by a pig-headed monster. Yuuya came up to it. With the tools at his disposal, he was astonished at the status of the pig-headed monster, which had up to 20,000 attack power. Yuuya, who couldn't bear to see the dog being tortured, intended to help it. But Yuuya realized that with his current level, he wasn't sure he could beat that monster. Yuuya got up and left, but hearing the dogs moaning continuously, Yuuya felt even more pitiful. Finally, he turned around and immediately attacked the monster. Yuuya knew his attacks wouldn't work, but at least he could distract the pig-headed monster. The unexpected happened when Yuuya managed to kill the monster with one strike. Yuuya wondered why it could happen. Meanwhile, from the start, Yuuya's statistical abilities only had a value of 1. Yet he had succeeded against a high-level bloody ogre. Yuuya then asked who exactly Mr. Mahardika had created this overpowered weapon. When Yuuya wanted to give his herbal potion to the dog even looked angry. Yuuya believed that the potion could restore its condition. Suddenly, the dog passed out unconscious. Yuuya immediately rushed to give the potion to it. Thanks to Yuuya's help, the dog recovered. The dog that had been fierce suddenly became obedient. Yuuya asked the dog to go with him. Yuuya then opened his device and checked the dog's status. It turned out that the dog had a pretty good statistical value and could tame monsters. To strengthen their relationship, Yuuya gave the dog the name Knight because of its jet black fur. The dog looked very happy with that name. Then he and Knight continued on their way. The next day, Yuuya was seen having fun playing with Knight. He had the idea to recheck his status stats to see whether they had risen. Yuuya wondered why his level hadn't gone up yet. He thought that his level would increase after defeating strong enemies. But Yuuya didn't want to bother because there would come a time when he would know how to raise his level correctly. At his home on Earth, Yuuya bid farewell to Knight as he was going to school. After arriving at class, Yuuya told his friends he had a dog. He wanted to find out where the nearest pet shop was. Hearing Yuuya's story, Cade wished to see his dog. She asked Yuuya if he had the photo. But because Yuuya didn't have a cell phone, of course, Yuuya didn't have a photo of his dog. Ryu and Shingo were also surprised because in this modern era, some people didn't have cell phones. But Yuuya explained that he didn't need a cell phone. Ryu then noticed a pet shop in the shopping district near the school. Shingo added that there was also a veterinary clinic there. They both suggested Yuuya to go there. Yuuya planned to go there after school later. Actually, Ryu and Shingo wanted to accompany Yuuya there, but they couldn't because there was some business they needed to do. Then Keed shyly offered to accompany Yuuya. Yuuya had accepted Keed's offer, but Keed thought it was a date instead. Yuuya arrived home with food and accessories for Knight that he had bought after school earlier. Yuuya said that he and his friend were the ones who chose all the items for Knight. Yuuya put a necklace on Knight, and it looked like Knight liked it. After that, Yuuya took Knight for a walk in the park, but his presence there attracted everyone's attention, especially the girls. They were stunned by Yuuya's good looks, but Yuuya still ignored it and kept walking, until his footsteps stopped because someone called him. It turned out that person was Kaori. Kaori greeted Yuuya and was interested in seeing Yuuya's new dog. Yuuya then introduced his dog to Kaori. Because she was excited to see Yuuya's cute dog, Kaori asked permission to touch it. Yuuya, of course, allowed her. Kaori looked so happy to be holding Knight. Unbeknownst to them, the people around them were watching their movements. One of them even said that Kaori, Yuuya, and Knight were the perfect combination. Kaori was still stroking Knight and praising its cuteness. While they were playing with Knight, another girl approached him. It turned out it was Miu. Yuuya asked why Miu could be there. Mi said that she lived nearby and often went out for walks in the afternoon. Kaori asked Yuuya if Mi was a model. Yuuya told Kaori that Mi was a fashion model. He could get to know Miu because he used to work with her. Yuuya immediately introduced Miu to Kaori and his dog, Knight. The people around them were increasingly paying attention to them. Yuuya and the others decided to leave the place, but when they were about to leave, they heard the screams of someone whose bag was stolen by a man. Yuuya immediately ordered Knight to chase after the pickpocket, while Yuuya went to the woman whose bag had been stolen earlier. Yuuya helped the woman and asked if she was okay. She was very worried about her bag. It didn't take long for Knight to catch the pickpocket. Not only did Knight take the woman's bag, but it also dragged the pickpocket along with her bag. Yuuya then told Kaori to contact the police, but the pickpocket fought back with his knife. When the pickpocket wanted to stab Kaori, Yuuya easily brushed it aside and defeated the pickpocket. Everyone there was amazed to see Yuuya's deft action, which paralyzed the pickpocket. They also praised Yuuya and clapped. Yuuya and Kaori then turned the pickpocket over to the police. Later that night, Yuuya and Knight returned to Isekai. Yuuya must immediately secure the forest so he could freely pass through it. Yuuya and Knight also worked together to eradicate the monsters before them. The two of them easily killed all the monsters. Knight turned out to have extraordinary abilities. Even it alone could defeat one giant monster. Then they continued walking through the forest. They encountered a deer monster with crystal horns, whose stats surpassed King Ogre's. Judging from its status, it seemed that the monster could use magic. The monster had not yet noticed Yuuya's presence, but because of Knight's barking, he finally found out where Yuuya was. In the end, like it or not, they both had to fight it. The battle was unavoidable. Knight attacked first, but the monster blocked the attack. With its magic power, the monster shoots magic from its horns. Luckily, Knight and Yuuya managed to avoid it. Yuuya, who realized the monster had two types of magic, asked Knight to have the attack. He asked Knight to catch the monster off guard. With swift movements, Knight tried to distract the monster. While the monster was off guard, Yuuya swiftly slashed the monster's neck with his sword. Finally, they both managed to defeat the monster. Yuuya then warned Knight that the deeper they entered the forest, the more flexible they were required to fight. Yuuya then checked what objects he had gotten from the monster. But Yuuya was surprised because, from the monster, he got a wooden bathtub. Seeing the bathtub, Yuuya wanted to soak in it instead. But he realized that the place was very dangerous. Finally, Yuuya decided to go back to his house. Yuuya used the bath to soak in the warm water. Knight also jumped in and warmed his body. It looked like they both enjoyed it. The next day, Yuuya and Knight went monster hunting again to increase their level. Gradually their levels rose, but they were a little overwhelmed by the pangolin monster. They are very fast monsters. Yuuya and Knight were lucky. The monster's attack was missed, and the thorns on their bodies got stuck in the tree. Yuuya immediately killed it by slashing its body with his sword. They then continued their journey until they came to a cave. They decided to go straight into it. Yuuya reminded Knight to always be near him because they didn't know what kind of enemy they would face in that cave. The atmosphere in the dark cave suddenly became quiet. That made Yuuya and Knight even warier. Inside the cave, they found a corpse, next to which was a book. Yuuya took it, and it turned out that it was Mr. Mahardika's book. When he opened the book, Yuuya looked very surprised. This episode started with Yuuya finding a book in a cave. It turned out that the book was Mahardika's book. Yuuya then opened the book, which contained the writings of the great sage, Mr. Mahardika. It told about him being perfect in various fields, thus making him at the level of a god when he was still alive. But he refused the offer of the other gods who invited him to their gathering event. As if he was about to communicate, Mr. Mahardika informed Yuuya that his strength was far more powerful than he had expected. where one day he would be respected and feared by everyone. In the end, Yuuya would meet the same fate as himself.
そのために必要なのは
こんな人生を歩んでほしくない。いてくれる人間を。
After reading all that, Yuuya was speechless. He then wondered how to keep other people from being afraid of him. Suddenly, there was a voice that seemed to answer Yuuya's question. The voice said that Yuuya must form a relationship of trust with fellow humans.
難しい話だったみたいだな。そのために必要なのは
言いたいことを一つだけこの本に記す。
Yuuya thought that the sound he heard just now was just an illusion. Yuuya felt that he needed a friend, lover, or family. In other words, Yuuya needed someone who would always accompany him after that person knew all of Yuuya's strengths.
最近まで友達がいなかった人間ですし、でも恋人でも両親でもいい。知りたいこと。
Yuuya found it all very difficult because Yuuya only had a few friends he knew. In the book, it was written that Yuuya could find some friends he could really trust. The book said that he would write down everything Yuuya wanted to know.
さらけ出して、なお君のそばにいてくれくだった。君にはこんな人生を、君のペースで人生の友を手に。
Yuuya immediately said that he wanted to know about magic. Suddenly, the book lighted up and wrote down all the magic that existed. Not only that, but the book also found out that Yuuya was not a human from Isekai because Yuuya didn't have a magic circuit.
君に私の魔力回路をさ君のような異世界人の体には
The book also said that he would give his magic circuit to Yuuya because it would be a waste if the magic circuits disappeared without anyone using them.
君のような異世界人の体にはこの魔法理論を全て詰め込んでおい人間は心臓で魔力を生み出し
The book's author also believes that Yuuya would be worthy of having that much power. Suddenly, the book turned on and took out the writing in it. The letters then flew and entered Yuuya's body.
大丈夫。大丈夫だ。
Then the voice suddenly reappeared and said it was enough for him to be a human without feelings.
君は幸せになってもらいたい
とは想像の具現化である。
人生に幸多からんことを
Then Yuuya thanked the hermit for all the gifts.
ありがとう、賢者さん。
Upon arriving home, Yuuya immediately practiced using magic. The trick was to feel the accumulated energy.
会えない。最初は魔力を感じ。
Yuuya seemed to close his eyes to concentrate. Finally, in a short time, Yuuya managed to get the power to manipulate the energy of magic.
込めて発動したい魔法を想像すれば。これが。
After feeling the difference within himself, Yuuya was asked to concentrate the magic in his palm and imagine it as he wanted. Yuuya and Knight tried their magic in their yard.
そうだな。魔法名は
Yuuya looked very happy because he could make a big ball of water. Not only Yuuya but Knight also turned out to be able to do it. The two of them then targeted a tree. Yuuya was surprised because his and Knight's water shots could make many trees fall.
できた。できたぞ。
The scene moved to the palace, where Owen reported Yuuya to the king. Owen also unknowingly told about Princess Lexia, who proposed to Yuuya because he had saved her.
しただけは本当に驚きました。名前の響きが我々と大きく異なり。
This made the king question Owen's words just now. Not even just once, the king kept asking that in a high tone. The king looked furious because someone dared to seduce his beloved Princess Lexia.
今なんで王族はどいつもこいつも。
On the other hand, at school, Yuuya would hold field education next week. Yuuya, who didn't know what field education was, asked Yukine Hyudu. Yukine explained that field education was synonymous with field practice, namely camping in the school field for 3 days and 2 nights.
使うときは気をつけなくっちゃな。
新しい環境に馴染むため2泊3日
来週は校外学習があるが
Sawada Sensei then divided the students into several groups, one group of 4 people. Yuuya was in the same group as Kade, Akira, and another student named Rin Kanzaki.
よろしくね。くんづけだなん
ご飯一緒だね。よろしく。
よろしく、神崎さん。
Seeing Yuuya, who was nervous, Rin knew that the rumors spreading about him were true. In the middle of their conversation, Yuuya, who didn't have a large backpack, was invited by Cade to shop for bags with her.
じゃあ一緒に買いに行こう。
俺リュックとか持ってないんだよね。
The scene moved to a shopping center where Yuuya shopped with his friends. They were surprised because Yuuya knew Kaori and asked her to go shopping with them.
友達とショッピングなんてなんだかワクワクします。皆さんよろしくお願いします。がすごすぎて偉いのは父です。
Kaori, who didn't want to feel any different, only wanted them to call her by her first name.
驚いたよ。ゆうやが香織さんと知り合い。
まさか香織さんと遊ぶ
香りって呼んでください。
Kaori then recommended to them some backpacks they could choose from. After seeing and trying on the backpack, Yuuya agreed with Kaori's choice and then bought it.
いいんじゃないですか。
さすが。ありがとう。
はい。
After that, since they only needed to prepare for their individual needs, they decided to spend some time having fun first.
ことで。遊ぼうぜ。
They then went to the game center in the mall. Shingo saw one of the games where the prize was a waifu that he really dreamed of. But Shingo realized that it would be tough to get the prize.
空いてる空いてる
平日最高。
だよねああ愛しの皮膚みたい
Yuuya then came to Shingo and immediately tried the game. Of course, with Yuuya's strength, he easily won the prize. With just one try, Yuuya managed to do it.
マジか。あそこガチャ。慎吾くん。
いいの
Seeing that, his other friends asked Yuuya to help them get their desired gifts.
よかったら。ゆうやくんあれ取れる？
ほんとポンポン取れちまうからよ。サンキューな。
このペンケース。やったー！ありがとうございます。ゆうやさん。
After having fun, Ryu invited them to hang out at the cafe on the 7th floor, but Keed asked the male students to go there first. Meanwhile, the girls would go to the 13th floor to the women's fashion center.
やっぱり女子はこっちでしょ。
飲まない？
男子だけで先に。
俺たちは休憩してようぜ。
But none of them knew that there was a big problem that would be disastrous for all of them in the end. While Yuuya and the others were waiting for the girls at the cafe, they were startled by the fire alarm going off. It turned out that the source of the fire came from the game center earlier.
香織は女の子が3人降りてきます。香織たちが。
They all ran to save themselves, but they were worried about the girls who hadn't come down from the 13th floor.
慌てないで。どうしよう。俺たちが上の階に。この13階に友達がいたはずなんです。
Kate then called Ryu to say they didn't have time to get down from there, and the call was cut off. Ryu then told it to Yuuya.
今どこに？ここは危険だから。そっちは任せて。君たちは3人ともまだ上にいる。
Yuuya was shocked and immediately ran upstairs to save his friends, even though the officers had forbidden him. Evacuation officers who heard this immediately reported it to the rescue team.
でも急いで。君亮と慎吾君はさ。ここが火元か。
Shingo and Ryu couldn't do anything because they were both being held back from going up by the officers. While running, Yuuya was determined to save his friends.
あの笑顔。今こそ魔法。イメージ。ここが火元か。
Arriving on the 13th floor, it turned out that the flames were already huge. Even the water spray was useless. Yuuya thought hard so he could break through the fire in front of him. Like it or not, Yuuya had to use the magic he just learned. Smartly, Yuuya imagined his body being covered in water and air to break through the fire without getting burned or out of oxygen.
成功だ。誰かそこにいるのか。魔法で軽い。
His friends had all fainted because they had inhaled the smoke from the fire for too long. Kaori, who was semi-conscious, saw Yuuya running towards her. But not long after that, she passed out. Yuuya immediately approached Kaori and lifted her body. Yuuya used his powers of navigation to see if anyone else was there besides his three friends. But Yuuya did not detect any other victims.
館内全員退避完了。香り魔力は持つか。
Yuuya immediately carried his three friends at once. Yuuya seemed worried about whether his magic power could save them all in time. Yuuya then got out of there and ran quickly through the fire that was getting bigger. But Yuuya stopped because all the exit entrances he aimed for were dead ends. After all, collapsed buildings and fire covered them. Not only that, the ceiling of the building above them was slowly starting to fall. Yuuya was confused about where to go next. Like it or not, Yuuya had to find another way and use his magic again. Outside the mall, Ryu and Shingo got angry at the officers because the rescue team hadn't come while Yuuya and the others were still left inside. However, in the midst of the bickering, suddenly the building above them collapsed. It turned out that by using his great strength, Yuuya seemed to break through the floors of the building from top to bottom. Ryu and Shingo were surprised to see the figure behind the smoke and rubble of the building. Everyone there saw Yuuya, and the others were already on the first floor. Worried about Yuuya and their friends, Ryu and Shingo immediately went to him and checked their condition. Yuuya said that they were all fine. Hearing that, Ryu and Shingo were relieved. Kaori, Rin, and Cade immediately got help from the medical staff. At the same time, Yuuya was scolded by the evacuation workers and the rescue team. After that, Mr. Tsukasa came and thanked Yuuya for saving his daughter. Yuuya had a hard time explaining how he saved them all from the fire. Yuuya then gave Kaori's otter pin, which fell during the fire. Yuuya apparently managed to take back the pin. That made Kaori tear up. When he was going home, Yuuya saw Mr. Tsukasa hug Kaori tightly. That made Yuuya remember what the book's author had said about family. Yuuya was pensive because he didn't have any family. When he entered the house, he was immediately greeted by Knight, who had been waiting for him all day. Yuuya immediately invited Knight to have dinner. Meanwhile, in the deep forest of Isekai, a battle between two characters would appear in the next episode. A rabbit was seen nimbly avoiding hundreds of arrows launched by a mysterious girl. After being traced, it turned out that the rabbit was Nirmala, while the mysterious girl had the power of an enemy aura. The girl invited the rabbit to join her and destroy the world because for her, the world was too rotten for her to protect. This episode started with Yuuya learning magic from Master Mahardika's book. In the book, Yuuya read that magic was created from the manifestation of the user's imagination. Yuuya, who already understood what the reading meant, immediately tried it. While concentrating, Yuuya tried to move to another place or teleport with his magic. He was surprised because the method he used was successful. Now he no longer had to worry about leaving Knight alone at home. Then he and Knight explored the area around the forest. Yuuya accidentally bumped into two monsters. Without further ado, Yuuya and Knight immediately prepared to face the two monsters. Yuuya and Knight seemed too strong for the two monsters because they'd managed to beat them easily. After defeating the two monsters, Yuuya immediately picked up the drop items they dropped. Yuuya looked happy because he could work well with Knight, and the drop items they got were so many. When Yuuya checked every drop item, it turned out that each item had an extraordinary function. After that, Yuuya and Knight immediately came out of the cave. Knight looked sad because Yuuya finished their hunt. Yuuya explained that he had to prepare equipment for his school event later. But suddenly, Knight seemed to hear something and immediately ran towards the direction of the sound. Then Yuuya immediately disguised his presence.
気配を消せって言ってるのか。おい、ナイト！また女の子が。
Yuuya and Knight were surprised to see a white bluish-haired girl injured and surrounded by monsters. Yuuya intended to help her, but somehow Knight stopped Yuuya.
ナイト！
Even though the girl looked strong, all that meant nothing if several monsters attacked her. It didn't take long for the monsters to corner the girl. Even one of the monsters managed to hit the girl until she bounced and hit a tree hard. The monsters looked overjoyed to see the helpless girl. One of the monsters approached the girl, but suddenly Knight rushed at the monster, followed by Yuuya, who attacked the other monsters. There was a fierce battle between Yuuya and Knight against the monsters. In the middle of the battle, Yuuya realized the number of monsters was huge. Yuuya was surprised. He immediately took one of the items from his dimensional storage. It turned out that the weapon he took was overpowered. With just one swing, Yuuya managed to defeat the monsters. Because he felt that the weapon was powerful, Yuuya immediately read the description of the weapon. It turned out that the weapon he picked was a sky whip with a skill that would branch out when it swung. It was not just branch, the weapon could also lock every move of its enemy.
多すぎるんですけど。
Then Yuuya walked over while carrying the injured girl. He intended to bring the girl home to be treated, but Knight didn't seem to agree with Yuuya's decision.
もうだいぶ退治できたし。反対なのか。
It didn't take long for the girl to wake up, and she struggled until she fell from Yuuya's arms. Yuuya then handed his herbal healing potion to the girl.
飲んでみますけど。もうジュースです。飲めば傷が治る。
But the girl didn't like Yuuya's existence and even seemed to suspect Yuuya. Yuuya, aware of that, immediately proved it by drinking it first.
パンチ草のジュースです。飲めば傷が。ああ、俺は天井優也。不安ならまずは俺が飲んでみますけど。
Seeing Yuuya's sincerity, the girl's suspicions disappeared. The girl took the potion and drank it. In an instant, all the wounds on her body disappeared.
痛みがなくなった。
After getting acquainted, it was known that the girl's name was Luna. Luna asked Yuuya to chat with her. Yuuya questioned Luna's reason for being in that dangerous forest. Luna, who didn't want to be honest, said she was practicing and was suddenly attacked by the monsters.
など使わないでいいぞ。
それは天井優也って言います。この
その修行中の身だ。
Yuuya told her that he had managed to defeat all the monsters. Luna thanked Yuuya for helping her. Luna asked Yuuya why he could be in the Great Devil's Nest. Yuuya reasoned that he was also training with Knight, just like Luna.
俺もそのやっつけたよ。俺とナイトで。
目的は同じだったようだな。
Due to her weak condition, Luna couldn't go to town. She asked Yuuya where the nearest river was because she wanted to clean herself up. Instead, Yuuya offered Luna to soak in his wooden tub. When Yuuya explained that he got the bath from a monster with a crystal horned deer, Luna was surprised.
お風呂に入る？
お風呂？
こっちも似たようなもんだよ。ディアから手に入れたんだ。
In the middle of the conversation, it was discovered that Luna was carrying out a mission in the forest. Luna then remembered that she had told Yuuya that she was training in the forest when she was attacked.
私の場合、ただ依頼で。
また一人で修行続けるのかな。
しばらくの間、私の修行に。
Luna then asked Yuuya to train with her. Yuuya, who didn't want to leave Luna alone in the forest, accepted her invitation to train with her and to be able to accompany her there.
修行しているなら、私も一緒に修行 しばらくの間、私の修行にユーヤ、お前の協力があれば。
Then Yuuya, Luna, and Knight were seen working together to eradicate the monsters there, which also served as training material for the three of them. It could be seen that the three of them could work together well and compactly because they could kill many monsters in a short time.
で、強くなれたんじゃないかと思う。
Yuuya praised Luna's excellent abilities. Luna said that everything was also thanks to the help from Yuuya and Knight, who wanted to train with her. But Yuuya disagreed that it was all because of their help, because Yuuya knew that Luna was good at fighting using the sharp threads in each of her fingers.
初めて見た時だって鮮やかに使うじゃないかルナ。もうゴブリンエリートなら。
Even though their training was excellent, Yuuya said that he could no longer practice with Luna tomorrow, maybe for some time. Hearing this, Luna was shocked and questioned his reason. But because the agreement was like that, Luna couldn't even protest against Yuuya's decision. Luna was also grateful because Yuuya had helped her train. Yuuya was also thankful because Luna had taught him many things.
ないよね。修行に付き合いそうにないんだ。
本当によくしてくれた。感謝している。
Since it was their last day, Yuuya invited Luna to continue to focus on hunting until sunset.
最後の一日、日が暮れるまでしようかな。初めて見た時だって。
After they finished, Yuuya was curious why Luna asked him to take a bath first. Soon Yuuya was surprised by the arrival of Luna, who was naked and only wearing a towel. Yuuya immediately wanted to get out of the bath, but Luna stopped him by hugging Yuuya's body from behind. Softly, Luna whispered something in Yuuya's ear. "Thank you for agreeing to my selfish request." Luna said that her time with Yuuya was precious to her. Her words portrayed it as if they would never meet again.
ママに付き合ってくれたこと、本当に私の宝物だ。くなることができた。だけ明るい世界を見ることができた。
俺もだし。てか、
Yuuya was confused and questioned what Luna meant. Luna wanted to give her thanks by rubbing Yuuya's back.
さあ、お礼に背中でも流させて。
As they took a bath together. Long story short, educational events outside of school began. Along the way, Yuuya played cards with his friends on the bus. Yuuya had won the card game 5 times.
ゆうやくん寝不足？
なんで僕はババにまでこんなにモテてしまう？
すごいね。これで5連勝だよ。
But seeing Yuuya yawning and sleepy, his friends asked Yuuya just to sleep. They said they would wake Yuuya when they arrived at the location.
海降りすぎたからだろう。ありがとう。
It wasn't long before the bus that brought them arrived. They woke up Yuuya.
さすが僕らのここで校外学習。
Sawada Sensei told all the students to change and gather in the hall.
集合。校外学習。
From Sawada Sensei's directions, all students were asked to work hard for 2 days in the forest around the inn. Students were asked to find their own food supplies in the forest, such as plants, fruits, and fish in the river. In essence, they must be able to survive for 2 days in the forest. Just in case, the teachers would check the area and food ingredients in the forest beforehand, whether they were safe or not for them to consume.
将来エリート街道を突っ走るお前たちへ調理の前に店に来い。ちゃんとガナもいる。問題ない。
If someone became sick or poisoned later, the doctor in the medical room, Miss Yomakawa, was ready to treat them.
が治療してくれるからな。
誰かの叫び声が聞こえるの。
One of the students complained and even wanted to fast. They were even more surprised that Sawada Sensei said they should sleep in the open. Sawada Sensei, who heard this, immediately became angry and scolded him, because the activity was for education and competition for all of them.
ああもうおかしなもの食べるくらい。
授業の一環だからな。それもクラス。
Hearing the word competition, Yuuya asked what prizes they would get if they won. Sawada Sensei said that she would give more bonuses to the winner.
で、勝つと何かあるんですか？
施設に帰ってこようよ。
査定に影響するのだ。
Long story short, Yuuya's group decided to share tasks. Ren and Akura would look for plants that were safe to eat. Meanwhile, Cade and Yuuya were in charge of fishing in the river.
ルと楓が釣りに行って、私とアホは。
ないかい？ねえ、聞いてる？
自信ないけど。
Arriving at the river, many students had arrived there first. Because it was full, Cade asked Yuuya to go somewhere else.
くれたね。
これは出遅れたかなは諦めようか。
Then after closing his eyes, Yuuya could feel a fairly shallow stream on the other side of the river. Cade thought that Yuuya would fish in a shallow river like that, but Yuuya pulled up his pants and, while carrying a bucket, intended to catch fish with his bare hands.
ゆうやくん？魚がいっぱい。
読んで動きを。
Capitalized on the tutorial from Luna, who said if monsters were already afraid of humans, their movements would be easier to read. Yuuya equated fish with monsters and concentrated on watching the fish move in the river.
あの気持ちを読んで。
Finally, Yuuya managed to catch fish with only his bare hands. Cade, who was surprised, then praised Yuuya. Not only Cade, but all the students who watched Yuuya's actions were also amazed. They questioned what kind of reflex Yuuya had. After getting a lot of fish, Cade called Yuuya back. There was enough fish to share for the four of them. Yuuya, who felt he had learned a new skill, thanked Luna for teaching him.
ごめん。つい楽し
On the other hand, there were lots of spooky dolls in a location that looked uninhabited. And with one pull, all of the dolls' heads snapped off.
これも修行の成果か。
Luna realized that her thread was getting sharper and smoother. She realized that all of that was thanks to her training with Yuuya. She wanted to see Yuuya again. But in her heart, she knew all that was just wishful thinking that would never happen again.
これも修行の成果か。
Little we knew Luna was not an ordinary beautiful girl. She was an assassin who was a dark guild member known as the Kobakari, or Headhunter. This story began with Rin welcoming Cade and Yuuya. Cade then told Rin that Yuuya had caught a bucket full of fish with his bare hands. Rin, who heard this, was astonished. Rin complimented Yuuya, who had extraordinary physical abilities. After that, Yuuya saw Akira, who fell to the ground, and he asked Rin what had happened to Akira. Rin indifferently said, "Just let Akira be like that." After hearing Rin's words, Akira then got angry. Akira then explained what happened to him. When he and Rin were looking for wild herbs together, Rin asked him to pick up a mushroom on the edge of a cliff. Rin then asked him to eat the mushroom. Even Akira was asked by Rin to distract the bear. Yuuya, who heard this, was shocked because Sawada-sensei had forbidden them to eat poisonous mushrooms. Feeling worried, Yuuya then approached Akira. With his strength, Yuuya checked Akira's condition, and fortunately, Akira was fine. Akira advised them to be more careful. Rin then showed Yuuya and Cade the food results they had gotten. Cade was happy because they managed to collect a lot of food ingredients. Then Yuuya chose the food they would consume and threw away the food that was harmful to their health. Yuuya then asked his team who would cook the food. Judging from their body gestures, none of them could cook. After that, Yuuya invited all of them to show their results to his teacher. All students were seen gathering in the hall to show the results of the food ingredients they had collected. While Yuuya was looking for Sawada-sensei, he saw Kaori and greeted her. They asked each other about the progress of their respective groups. In the middle of their chat, her teammates called Kaori out. She then said goodbye to Yuuya and the others as she returned to her team. Akira then approached Yuuya and asked how Yuuya got along with Kaori. Akira felt jealous because Yuuya could get along well with Kaori. Akira then shouted that he also wanted to be close to Princess Kaori. All students were surprised to hear that and how Akira called Kaori. Rin then explained that Kaori was the daughter of the academy head. Due to her graceful figure and kind personality, some people called her Princess. Sawada-sensei then checked the ingredients that Yuuya and his team had gathered. Sawada-sensei praised Yuuya's team for being the only team that collected many food ingredients that were safe for consumption. But Sawada-sensei asked them not to let their guard down because their cooking would be judged too. Sawada-sensei then asked who could cook, and Yuuya's team unanimously pointed at Yuuya. Sawada-sensei then encouraged Yuuya because everything depended on Yuuya, and also the bonuses that Sawada-sensei would get. The scene then continued where Yuuya was cooking the ingredients they had collected, calmly and relaxed like a pro chef. Yuuya cooked one by one the ingredients that were already there. Finally, Yuuya had finished cooking, and everything looked very delicious. His teammates were amazed to see Yuuya's cooking. Without further ado, they all ate Yuuya's cooking. While tasting Yuuya's cooking, 2 male teachers and Sawada-sensei came. She was surprised to see Yuuya's cooking, and immediately asked permission to eat the dish. Yuuya then invited Sawada-sensei and the other teachers. After tasting, they all looked silent. With high hopes and little worry, Yuuya asked about the taste of his cooking. They all immediately shouted that Yuuya's cooking was delicious. They all praised Yuuya for his delicious cuisine. Sawada-sensei even compared Yuuya's cooking, which was much better than the chef's cooking at their school. Yuuya was happy because everyone liked his cooking. Because previously, Yuuya had only cooked for himself, so he didn't know the taste comparison. In a short time, Yuuya's cooking was gone. Suddenly, Sawada-sensei asked Yuuya to marry her. Of course, it surprised everyone who was there. Sawada-sensei said she was a clumsy woman who couldn't cook and wash. While still in college, she was having fun and researching, which was why she was single at her current age. Sawada-sensei said that Yuuya was a promising future asset. She wanted Yuuya to marry her and take care of her. Of course, that made everyone disagree. Rin then said that a teacher should not mess with the students. One of the teachers even asked her to act wisely like an adult. Kate also said that dating Yuuya wasn't good either. But Sawada-sensei said that if she didn't ask Yuuya to answer so quickly, she would always faithfully wait for Yuuya's decision. Everyone unanimously said that they disagreed with Sawada-sensei's words. Yuuya then apologized to Sawada-sensei for being unable to determine the answer. He and Sawada-sensei were students and teachers, after all. But Yuuya said that Sawada-sensei was an extraordinary teacher. Hearing that, Sawada-sensei immediately hugged Yuuya tightly. After that, the atmosphere became out of control again. By using his teleportation power, Yuuya could return to his home. Knight greeted him cheerfully. Yuuya said that he had to go again while hugging Knight. Yuuya then invited Knight to eat. Yuuya said that day he felt thrilled because he could make other people happy. Long story short, Yuuya was in the boys' changing bathroom with all the other students. Yuuya was surprised because everyone was looking at him. Akira said they were amazed by Yuuya's muscular body, which looked amazing. In the girls' changing bathroom, Kaori and Yukine came and asked what was going on. Kate said that Rin was very annoying to her. Rin told them Ki participated in a running extracurricular despite having big chests. According to her, she could subdue the male students easily. Rin then compared Cade's chests to Sawada-sensei's, who had much larger chest. Cade then said that Sawada-sensei asked Yuuya to marry her. Hearing that, Kaori was immediately shocked and asked what she meant. Rin replied that Sawada-sensei wanted to marry Yuuya because the delicacy of his cooking tempted her. Yuuya could fall if he had to be slapped by a chest that big. Kate said if Sawada-sensei was still after her, she won't let him. Kaori immediately asked if Kade liked Yuuya. With a stammer, Kade replied that she didn't like Yuuya. Kaori wondered if Yuuya liked girls with big chests. The next day, all the students were shocked to see their messy tent, as if someone had deliberately damaged it. Then they found out who did all that. Akira then saw the bear's footprints and claws, and suddenly a big bear appeared from both trees and chased them all. The bear went berserk and destroyed everything in its path. One of the teachers told all the students to take cover behind the teachers. The situation became tense. While running to save herself, Sawada-sensei fell, and the bear looked like it wanted to attack her. But Yuuya managed to restrain the bear. There was a fight between Yuuya and the bear, which was witnessed by everyone who was there. Yuuya then lifted and slammed the bear unconscious. Of course, everyone who saw it was shocked. After that, the bear was tied up and handed to the police. They planned to make the bear a guard bear, just like a guard dog, because the academy and the city government had allowed it. This was not a problem. Finally, the first day of school education was over. The day came when Yuuya would meet the king. Yuuya and Knight beat the monsters, blocking their way to meet Princess Lexia. After defeating the monster, Yuuya found a helmet-shaped drop item. Yuuya then put on the helmet and asked Knight if he was suitable for wearing it. On the other hand, it turned out that Yuuya was being watched by a rabbit from up in a tree. Not long after that, Yuuya met Princess Lexia's entourage. They would escort Yuuya to the palace. But suddenly, a tree fell and was about to fall on Princess Lexia. Knight immediately saved Princess Lexia, and Yuuya held the tree and fended it off with a sword. Yuuya then saw that there was an invisible thread, and Knight already knew about it first. However, Princess Lexia's bodyguard scolded Yuuya because his dog had attacked Princess Lexia. Yuuya tried to explain everything. Yuuya then asked Knight whether he knew the location of the person who had tried to attack them just now. Yuuya managed to find the person and incapacitated him. When he took off the person's mask, to his surprise, it turned out that the person was Luna. Princess Lexia then asked if Yuuya knew this person. Yuuya replied that he knew that person and explained her name was Luna. Yuuya apologized to Princess Lexia and asked for a moment. Yuuya asked permission to treat Luna at his house because he was sure Luna was not evil. Princess Lexia also allowed it. She looked happy because he was going to Yuuya's house again. After that, Yuuya takes Luna home, and Lexia remains on the bed, staring at the seemingly innocent assassin. Yuuya approaches her and she tells him that she believes Yuuya has a very intimate relationship with Luna, which helps her understand his concept of friendship and what friendship truly means to him. Yuuya denies having such strong feelings for Luna, though he admits that they are friends and met a few weeks ago. Lexia recalls being in the deepest part of the forest when they suddenly found themselves at home. She is concerned about this and asks Yuuya what magic he used to bring them back from the forest's darkest region. Yuuya explains that it's teleportation magic. He claims to have built a teleportation link from the forest to his house so that he can easily travel from the forest to his house. Lexia rushes over to meet him. She asks him if he is unaware that teleportation magic is a powerful spell that is rare in their world. It is referred to as legendary magic, and it is only mentioned in fantasy. Yuuya is unaware that his magic skill is that important. He tells Lexia that he is unaware, and Lexia informs him that the magic he used, as if it were a minor matter, is enough to cause war between countries. She warns him that the magic is so powerful that if people find out he has it, it will cause war and destruction. She cautions him not to use it in front of anyone else. Yuuya accepts her advice and turns to Luna, asking how long she will pretend to sleep and whether she will wake up now. Luna had been pretending to be asleep all along. Luna gets up and asks how she knew she was acting. Lexia laughs at her and tells her that it is obvious to everyone that she is acting, including Yuuya. He only remained silent and watched her because he wanted her to wake up on her own. She admits that Yuuya is a good friend who genuinely cares about her safety. She tells Luna that now that she is awake, she should tell them how she came to be on the verge of killing the princess. Luna refuses to speak, telling Lexia that talking will make no difference and that if Lexia wants to kill her, she should do so immediately because talking will make no difference. Lexia tries to persuade her, but she remains firm in her decision. Yuuya eventually intervenes. He expresses interest in her story and requests that she explain how she arrived. She begins the story reluctantly. She tells them she was an orphan who survived by scavenging garbage. She would go around everyone's bins and raid them for food. She appeared tattered and filthy, and she eventually promoted to stealing from people for a living. She will steal from people, run to avoid being caught, and continue in this manner until one day she meets a man. Despite her appearance, this man looked at her and tapped her on the shoulder. He drew her in and took her home. This was her first home, and this man eventually taught her everything she knew. The man eventually took over as her master. He taught her to read and write, but he also taught her other life skills that she now possesses. All of the skills her master had taught her were geared toward assassination. When she discovered her master was an assassin, she immediately mentioned assassination. Lexia makes the connection and discovers that her master is a member of the Dark Guild. Yuuya is unfamiliar with that world, so he has no idea what the Dark Guild is, so Lexia explains that the Dark Guild is a secret organization that deals with all evil that can be done. The Dark Guild comes to mind when you think of evil. They murder, kidnap, steal, and engage in other illegal activities. Luna's story continues. She tells them that she learned every assassination technique from her master and eventually joined the Dark Guild. She took on missions to survive after joining them, and she was successful on several of them. She had never failed a mission, and she became known as the notorious assassin headhunter over time. Lexia claims to know the name, that she has heard it several times, and that reports about the assassin have been made to the king. Luna claims that one day, as usual, she received a mission to assassinate Arcelia's princess, Lexia, which is why she came to that part of the forest in the first place. Yuuya is taken aback by all of this. He asks Knight if she knew who Luna was the first time they met, and she nods in agreement. Luna informs them that she is finished with the story and that they may now kill her. Yuuya is asked why she wants to die. and she explains to them that if she accepted that mission, her death was guaranteed. And the moment she completed that mission, she signed her death warrant, so that even if the process did not kill her, the Dark Guild would learn that she had failed the task and would dispatch assassins to kill her. However, she is aware that her death is certain. She believes the likelihood that Lexia will let her go is low, and even if she does, she will not survive the Dark Guild. Lexia requests the right to speak for herself. She claims she isn't interested in killing Luna, and that she will give Luna a choice. She suggests that she work for her. She claims that because she is the princess's personal security guard, the Dark Guild cannot reach her, so Luna need not worry. Luna is adamantly opposed. She wonders if Lexia has forgotten that Luna just attacked her. Lexia claims to remember. However, only she and Yuuya are aware of the attack, so if they keep it a secret, no one will be aware. She begs Luna to accept the offer and expresses her desire for Luna to live. Luna, on the other hand, believes she does not deserve a second chance. She believes that a devil like her cannot be around a pure person like Lexia. She looks at her hands, recalling the number of people she has killed, and declares that she is unworthy of redemption. Lexia notices her staring at her hand. She takes Luna's hand in hers and remarks on how soft it is. She wonders how Luna manages to keep a gentle touch despite her demanding job. Luna tries to explain that it's because of Yuuya's bath, but she stops in the middle. Lexia becomes enraged. She leaps at Luna and informs her that if her attack fails, she has lost the fight. And because she has lost the fight, she must obey the command of the person who has won the fight. As a result, she has no choice but to become Lexia's personal guard. Luna eventually accepts and addresses Lexia as her lord. That makes Lexia happy. She tells Luna that she doesn't have to call her by her ceremonial name as her first command, and that she should just call her Lexia. Luna refers to her as a chaotic princess and addresses her by name. Monsters, on the other hand, are pursuing Lexia's captain and the other guards. Even as he nears death, her captain hopes that Lexia is fine. As their new friendship develops, Lexia inquires about the bath, and Luna explains that Yuuya has a bath that not only cleans the body, but also heals all illnesses and strengthens the body. Lexia insists on taking a bath, and she drags Luna along with her. She invites Yuuya to join them, but he declines. They arrive at the bath, and Lexia asks Luna if she likes Yuuya. Luna denies the accusation and says no, so Lexia tells her that because she dislikes Yuuya, she should have no problem if Lexia and Yuuya marry. Luna screams that she can't imagine such a possibility, and Lexia accuses her of being concerned about who Yuuya marries if she doesn't like Yuuya. Luna reluctantly admits that she admires Yuuya as a fighter and partner, but she isn't sure if she feels anything more for Yuuya. Lexia interprets that statement as a hint that she has feelings for Yuuya, so she informs Luna that she has declared war on them. Luna is unsure what she means by war, and Lexia informs her that she will marry Yuuya. Luna refuses, so she accepts the war. Eventually, Lexia declares that she will now take Luna as her rival and guard. When they return home, Yuuya offers to cook their dinner. Trying to win Yuuya's heart, Lexia tells Yuuya that she would like to cook the food, and he agrees. She takes the onion and tries to cut it, but all of her attempts fail. The onion continues to fall off, and at one point, the knife slips from her grip and nearly strikes Yuuya and Luna. Yuuya requests that he prepare the food, and they thoroughly enjoy it. They continue to compete for the heart, and Luna advises Yuuya to feed her. He refuses, but she explains that she is injured and finds it difficult to move, let alone eat. He remembers being the one who attacked her, so he accepts to feed her out of pity. Lexia becomes envious as he feeds her and asks him to feed her as well, but when he refuses, she commands him as her princess, and he reluctantly feeds her. Later, they both request that he be fed, and they force food into his mouth. The girls sleep peacefully that night, while Yuuya is exhausted from the stress of the day. They return to the forest the next day to meet the guards. Owen, the captain, is relieved to see Lexia safe. He claims they encountered some monsters the next day, but Lexia assures him she is fine. He notices 2 more people with them, so Yuuya introduces Knight to them, and Owen thanks Knight for saving Lexia. It's Lexia's turn to introduce Luna, and instead of doing the usual, she reveals that Luna was the one who tried to kill her the day before, but Luna is now her guard. Owen and the other guards become aware of Luna's presence and point their swords at her. Lexia begs them to calm down, and when they refuse, she orders Luna to execute them. Luna does not obey her command, so she realizes it is incorrect. She begs her guards to let her go, telling them that she slept next to Luna the night before, and that if Luna wanted to kill her, she would have done so. They allow Luna to accompany them, but Yuuya informs them that he will not be returning to the palace. They describe the palace to him so that he can see it for himself. Before leaving, Luna rushes to hug Yuuya, thanking him for his service and declaring war. Lexia would like to do the same, but her carriage has already left. Yuuya discovers a river after they leave. He sees a muju and mistakenly tames it as he sets it to bathe. He gives the muju the name Akatsuki. He returns to school after learning that the Royal Week has ended. At school, his teacher informs them that Sports Week has begun and that they should compete to the best of their abilities because she will receive a bonus if they win. They go to soccer practice, and after changing into their dresses and stretching, they take their positions in the game. Yuuya is unfamiliar with the rules, so he begins as a goalkeeper. His team has a fantastic player named Ryu who scores at every opportunity. So Rin decides to distract Ryu in order to cause Yuuya's team to lose. She instructs Kei to jump with her body. And while they are distracted, another boy steals the ball from Ryu and attempts to strike at Yuuya's goalpost. But Yuuya saves the ball. When Yuuya asks what he should do with the ball, they tell him to throw as hard as he can. Everyone is amazed when he throws the ball, and it enters the opponent's goalpost. As the ball tournament approaches, a limousine awaits Yuuya after school.
私、こういうものでして。え？この度は、天上優也さん。
And a man handed him an invitation to work in show business. The Chad declines, and the woman is taken aback that a teenager would refuse an offer to work in the entertainment industry.
声優さんとか人気のコスプレイヤーさんに会え
ちょっとあなた本当に断る
しゃあねえか。
そうだね。
However, Yuuya humbly states that he is enjoying his high school life more than anything else at the moment and expresses gratitude for the offer.
と思いますし。とにかく。
The manager, on the other hand, screams at her assistant for failing to secure Yuuya for her new job.
どういうこと？話が違うじゃない。
When Mi steps out of the car, his friends are taken aback that he knows the hottest model.
あげてください。
お、ちょっとあなた本当に断るつもりなの？
ごめんなさい。社長が。
When the assistant shows them this month's magazine, they notice Yuuya sitting next to Miu, and they wonder when he did this before.
明日発売の今月号です。
ミユあの超人気モデル。
社長が強引で。
The manager tells her she needs to hurry up and suck him.
どうしてちょうだい？そのために連れてきた。
A flyer passes by, which is why they're called flyers, and the manager sees it. She grabs one and notices the ball sports competition and thinks she has a brilliant idea.
遊戯大会。
はい。
ゆうやさん。
芸能界とは関係なく、優也。
If she could infiltrate the prestigious academy and catch Yuuya playing with balls, she'd be in big trouble. She'll write the next bestseller, and with it, they'll be able to take all of his photos without his permission.
名門旺盛学園の球技大会に大戦。
ゆうやさん。
黒様、今すぐこの学園の。
Miu flashes her glasses before departing. Night casts his waterfall spell deep within the forest, and Yuuya leaps to slash at the skeleton. The skull prepares one last attack, but Yuuya dispatches it with his sword. Despite his training, he feels his ability to switch between physical and magical attacks is lacking. He wonders if he'll ever be able to gain strength and decides to venture deeper into the forest for the night.
俺これ以上一人じゃ。
Yuuya became aware of the hard black logs as they walked together.
何か周りの雰囲気が。賢者か。
He warns his companions to be cautious, but he wonders how Akatsuki grew to be so large.
暁、いつの間にか。ここから先は今まで以上に気をつけ。
The giant boar crushes Yuuya's core after seeing the true Akatsuki and launches him towards the tree. He orders his companions to stay back as he notices a level 10 mithril boar. He reaches for a healing potion, but the boar continues to attack him, leaving him no time to heal his wounds. It charges once more, but a voice from the darkness tells it that it will aid Yuuya, and a flash of light kicks the boar away. The source of that power was a white rabbit, who tells the boar to flee before unleashing a magical wave that spreads throughout the entire forest.
Usagi? Usagiが喋ってる!
Yuuya notices that all of the hard black trees have been destroyed and determines that the rabbit is a level 4 kick rabbit.
めちゃくちゃ
It tells them to hurry up and show them their kicks, and Akatsuki wants to be the first one to do so.
もう大丈夫です。
たち、蹴りを見せてみろ。
It tries to show off its kick with all of its confidence, but the rabbit says there's less hope there.
論外だな。次。
Light believes he can do better, and after demonstrating his kicks, the rabbit believes he has some potential. Finally, Yuuya shows off his kick, and the rabbit smiles, thinking he has some talent. It then proceeds to demonstrate a proper kick and sends a ripple of wind through 4 hard black trees.
やってみろ。
He tells Yuuya to spend the night practicing this new move. After hours of practice, he is finally able to knock down a tree with the wind of his kick. Now that he's made some headway, the bunny runs up to him and starts sparring.
できて当然だ。よし、その調子だ。
They continued sparring as the days passed, but Yuuya wondered why they were doing all this training. The bunny announces that Yuuya has been chosen as his successor. It is the divine's duty in this world to train the apprentices and pass on their techniques.
幼虫、いつの間にか弟子扱いになって。
後継者としてお前を選んだから称号を冠する連中が存在している。
They are the beings who have mastered their trades and are tasked with defending the world from the vile.
冠する連中が存在している。
生、育てる役目？
子たちを守るためにあるのが俺たち。
Those vials are the physical manifestations of malice that crystallizes and will do anything to harm innocent lives.
の自浄作用なのだろう。
じゃ？
たち、生と呼ばれる存在、世界の負の側面。
Yuuya wonders if he can refuse the role of divine visionary. It must be the bamboo I've been consuming.
断れないですかね。
断る、俺のことが。
一応は。
の生き物たちの命を救うことができると。
The bunny tells him that he could decline the title, but when the balance shifts in the battle against the vile, the only way to protect more lives is to have more allies.
そして、その邪から他の生き物は俺のように生という小学を教えを受けるのが嫌というなら。
And because the bunny sees no limits to Yuuya's abilities, he has chosen him as the next divine successor.
もうできるぞ。少しは分かったか？生と称号を継ぐ気はあるか？
Even after hearing that, Yuuya expresses his desire to continue training in order to protect all the people he's met in this world.
この世界で出会った人たちは遠慮し。
よし。それでは
The rabbit was impressed by his determination and agreed to train him further.
よし。それでは稽古をつけてやろう。
But only if he teaches him magic on the way. The bunny begs Yuuya to train underneath him because the barrier that prevents the strongest creatures in the world from entering is a magical miracle.
大魔教に展開できるほどの意義のないもののみを見抜き迎え。
そんな頭を上げてください。
Yuuya instructs him not to bow and anticipates the two of them teaching each other everything they know.
はい。
Yuuya flees deep in the forest from a level 3 King Mithril boar.
キングミスリルボア。使わなければならない邪はそんな
This is his chance for vengeance, and he informs Yuuya that the vile they'll be fighting is far more powerful than this creature.
なんでもリベンジ早すぎ。
いかに強いぞ。
Despite being far more powerful, Yuuya used his spear to crush the boar.
強いぞ。
After finally defeating the enemy, Knight and Akatsuki rush over to congratulate him.
俺は大丈夫だよ。
本当なら蹴りだけで倒せと言いたい。
ランク SS って
And Yuuya notices all of the SS rank items that were just dropped.
ランク SS ってどれもめちゃくちゃ使えそうだな。
ランクが存在する。そして俺たち
But they're not the highest ranked items, and the rabbit says there are still triple S rank and X rank items. And beyond those, the vile items are all legend rank, so he can't defeat them alone.
上にはトリプル S ランク。今日はもう帰ってゆっくり休むんだな。
何が起きて？
安心し
The system status appears, informing Yuuya that his species has progressed to the point where it can now evolve.
何が起きて？
安心しろ。
種族進化？
The rabbit explains that this is one of the rarest things for a human, but at least there is no change in his appearance.
特に見た目の変化はない。
The ball competition is about to begin at school, and the manager informs Yuuya that she has prepared a very special challenge for him.
あなたが主役よ。
A massive man appears, and Yuuya notices that he does not resemble a typical high school student.
貴様がこの俺の相手か。
どちらかといえば裏家業の明らかに高校生の見た目じゃないだろ。
After he won the national tournaments, the assistant hired him, and he's known as the sniper.
彼は体育クラス所属の生徒です。常に最高のパフォーマンスを見せる。人呼んで狙撃手。
He sends the ball flying past Yuuya after a single serve, and Yuuya remembers feeling this energy before.
不大会の絶対王者。今のはほんの挨拶だ。
But in comparison to the monsters from another world, he considers this guy insignificant. He swings at the ball hard enough to break the table and requests to be removed from the match.
魔物と比べたら
今のサーブ。
先生。
Yuuya wonders when this show will get a budget. So Cade rushes in to spend the budget for this episode. She begs him to play volleyball,
出場してくれって。
メンバーが一人
and the manager drags him to the volleyball arena. All of the guys believe the game will be easy now that he's on their team.
優也が入れば勝ったも同然だな。
However, once the game started, the show lost 20% of its budget and an entire gymnasium. The adversary withdraws, and Yuuya teams continue to dominate the matches.
危険します。
The manager becomes even more enraged as Cade spends not only the show's budget, but also their entire camera company's net worth. Yuuya is depressed and sulking, but they hear a man scream, and Kaori leave the match.
かわいそうなことになったね。
いただけませんか？
また？
She rushes up to Yuuya and begs him to replace her teammate in the game.
代わりに試合に出ていただけませんか？
First responders remove his body, and he warns Yuuya to be careful of the surf.
かわいそうなことになったね。
気をつけろ。
Opponents believe that this is a sad outcome and that he will be in that position soon.
すぐ後を追うことになるよ。
Kaori attempts to serve the ball but fails completely.
試合を再開します。
Yuuya assures her that her second serve will be fine, but the big is out to murder someone.
前香り。セカンドサーブ頼むよ。
おかしいですね。なんで楽？
Yuuya finally realizes which server he needs to watch out for.
ごめんなさい。大丈夫ですか？
The opposing team is given the opportunity to serve, and the ball nearly flies out of bounds. But Yuuya returns it to the opposing court and continues to counter their attacks. He leaps high into the air to keep the ball in play, and Kaori realizes she is finally useful.
やるねあんた。
今度こそ私も役に。
Yuuya is able to secure their victory and prevents Kaori from collapsing.
完璧で取ったわよね。
はい、バッチリ。
Yuuya finds Kaori standing next to a pole after the match. and she asks him to come over because he saved her yet again, and she wants to do something to thank him.
私を助けてくれたんです。だから
Yuuya tells her she doesn't have to do anything because simply being with her makes him happy.
と一緒にいられるだけで十分嬉しいし。
だからそのお礼も兼ねて。
Puzzled by what he just said, and asks him to close his eyes.
ください。
目を。
When she got closer, Yuuya thought it was the best smell he'd ever smelled.
いい匂い。
He asks what she did, but she says it's a secret. The rabbit narrowly escapes the forest at night and casts magic to attack the vial in front of him. She is perplexed as to how a Usagi can use magic, but he explains that he is still learning under Yuuya.
優也からな。
The vial revises the target for elimination after acquiring the new information, giving Yuuya a threat level of great for being the master of a divine.
ここまでお前を殺すのは生を弟子にするほどの損。
一体
The vial's energy disperses and tells him that she will kill Yuuya first.
お前を殺すのは優也とやる。
The bunny realizes she is superior in every way, so he must teach Yuuya everything before his life is jeopardized.
もうこうしなければどんな
Watch the following video until the next time.